Hi everyone, Gareth here. Just to let you know that if you would like to support the production of the Music Room podcast, you can. Just head to musicroompodcast.uk/support or click the link in the show notes. Okay, on with the show. Welcome to the Music Room. This time in the Music Room,
I would love to have like a little monitor here and put electrodes on, on the brain and just go, look, this is your brain. This is what is happening, and it must be like a firework display up there.
Hello and welcome to the Music Room, where I chat with music industry professionals about their work, their inspirations, and their winding roads into music. I'm Gareth, I'm a composer for TV and a producer for podcasts like this one, and I would love it if you enjoy this episode to share it with one person. Send them the link, send them a message. If you're meeting for a networking thing or a coffee or something, just tell one person. That would be fantastic. It's hands down the best way to get the show into more ears and ultimately help more composers, songwriters and musicians understand the industry a little better. There are links in the show notes if you want to just copy and paste. Anyway, in today's episode, Rick Jupp, former drummer of the acclaimed band Elbow, discusses his transition from performing in a major band to focusing on facilitating drumming. Rick reflects on his 25-year career with Elbow, sharing his thoughts on leaving the band and the journey of self-improvement through sobriety and family commitment. He also delves into his current work as a lecturer at Lipper and Spirit Studios, emphasising the importance of experiential learning and community building in music education. He elaborates on the scientific aspects of drumming, particularly neuroplasticity and its effects on brain connectivity and body awareness. And of course, he shares personal anecdotes about his early influences, favourite Elbow tracks, and advice for aspiring drummers, underscoring the therapeutic and connective power of drumming. But before that, music stories. Music Room guest, and in fact guest host, the amazing Charlotte Hatherley, is touring with Bat for Lashes this summer. On her Instagram a few weeks ago, Charlotte posted, delighted to say I'll be playing live with Natasha Khan, aka Bat for Lashes, this summer, alongside the wonderful Laura Groves. Power trio, joyful to be playing such bewitching music, an absolute sonic playground. Best of luck, Charlotte, and hope you have a brilliant time. I have to mention the lovely community of music roomers, and in May there have been releases. Yay, new music out there in the world. Well done, everybody. First off, LPM have an album out. They say, step into the groove with our, again, not doing the voice, step into the groove with our latest album, serving up 80s vibes with a modern flair, epic synth hooks, killer beats, and a production that'll have you feeling like you're cruising down Sunset Strip in a DeLorean. Get ready to rock out and party on with the 1980s. I've heard it and can confirm. Next up, music roomer Toby James has done a mashup of epic proportions. Ain't No Superstition, Chaka Khan, Stevie Wonder mashup. Think about it. If you want just 5 minutes of utter joy, do yourself a favour. Toby's such a talented musician, and I've included the link to the video in the show notes. And those are the music stories. If you would like your new releases featured on the show, come and join the community. It's really friendly and nice, and the link is in the show notes. After spending a quarter of a century as co-founder, co-songwriter and drummer in the band Elbow, Rick Jupp left to explore his passion for teaching and mentoring musicians of all ages and abilities, researching the physical and mental benefits of drumming for both neurodiverse and neurotypical people of all ages, spend time with his family and reconnecting with the drums. Let's get into the music room to find out what Rick's up to at the moment before going back in time to hear about his and the band Elbow's beginnings. Rick Jupp, drumming legend, I presume is your full name. Welcome to the Music Room.
Thank you so much for having me, Gareth. Absolute honour and pleasure to finally meet you and to be on this.
Oh, that's fantastic. How are things today? You've got a lovely room. You've been showing me around your room where you drum and where you teach.
Yeah,
How are things going today?
it's been today's been quite good actually. Academic year is sort of winding down. I lecture at two universities. One is LIPA over in Liverpool, Paul McCartney's gaff, which is great. I love it there. And recently started at Spirit Studios, which is the old SSR School of Sound recording that Elbow did one of our first sort of proper big desk recordings in. So It's kind of weird that I started there and I suddenly have this kind of like, oh my God, this is like full circle kind of stuff, serendipity and whatever. And that's been really good this year. So it's been kind of nice this week. Kind of felt that, I've done all my marking, well, most of it. The level sixes have gone off to do their thing. They'll be graduating soon. And it's kind of nice that sort of that cycle of sort of facilitator. I hate the word teaching, but that cycle of facilitating has gone. So today's been great. We had a really nice day yesterday, bank holiday. I had one lesson this morning. One of my youngers, Leah, she's absolutely killing it at the moment. So that's put me in a really good sort of level, and really looking forward to chatting to you. It's good. How was your morning?
Oh, yeah. A little more chaotic, but that's by the by. Yeah, but I love that word, facilitator. I kind of see that where, building communities around podcasts, I actually see that as my role. You get a lot of people selling courses and being the kind of mastermind of things, but I see community as bringing people together to facilitate that happening, for them to help each other. So I love that way to describe teaching as well. It's you're enabling people, basically, aren't you?
Yeah, I think it's got to be experiential. You've got to have real world experience of what you're trying to facilitate. To put it into context, especially for the next generation or whatever. And I think it also instills a sense of stoke, like froth. Do you know what I mean? Well, this is what I did. It's all about hacks, isn't it? It's like, as you say, the course thing. Very interesting that you say that, because just the way I try and do it, I can't read music. I try and facilitate in terms of coordination. Again, neuroplasticity, which we are going to talk about, and confidence. Proprioception, body confidence, synapses, neurons, new skills, knowing what these are doing in the same time as the feet are doing. And it's I don't know. I'm not sort of casting judgment on the usual educational way of doing things, like grading and sort of that judgment. Measurable progression by judgment, and it's like, well, okay, let's just be a bit more encouraging, and as you say, get some sort of community spirit. And that sounds a bit WI really, but it's no offense to the WI. I love them.
I'm not against a nice slice of Victoria sponge myself.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? It's the cement that
The cement.
Well, it is cement. That's really wrong.
I think it's more jam and cream, actually, Rick.
It's more jam and cream, but it gets everybody sitting together, chatting, building a community. So and also trying to communicate. Drums for me is all about communication, about creating space as opposed to filling it. Anyway, that's a lot in there. Sorry, Gareth.
Yeah, no. I could talk like this all day, honestly. So you mentioned Elbow there. Yeah. Many people will know you from your 25 years, quarter of a century in a little band people might have heard of called Elbow. And we'll come on to that at some point, I'm sure. It must feel like a lifetime ago. But what is on your agenda in 2024? Because that was a lifetime. This is a new kind of landscape for you. Well, I say new, in recent years. So what's your kind of aim for 2024? Is it kind of building on what you're doing at the moment?
I think that, yeah. I think it's It's funny. I was chatting to Sarah, my wife, the other day when Elbow were playing. They were back on tour. They were playing the Co-op Live in Manchester, and it's always a little bit of a trigger, not in a bad way, but in just just rechecking decisions. And I've best decision to leave, just like that was me done. But then, that's sort of a little bit of an ego, there's 25,000 people there, or 20,000, or however many were there. That feeling of going on stage and prepping and
it's a nostalgia. I suppose it's muscle memory, isn't it?
There it is. That's exactly what it was. So, we were talking, because there was a lot that led to me leaving. So it was kind of strange. It was like, oh, here we go. Right. Okay, let's just kind of ride this out. Because you get a lot of people going, are you going to the gig? And I've been to see Albert, you know what I mean? And you just think, well, I'm not a part of it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's not the narrative that I'm in. But it kind of finally felt that I'd left it behind. I don't know whether it's a 10-year cycle. Usually it's a 7, but kind of a 10 for me, or a 9. And I just thought, no, it's gone. Any of that kind of nostalgia, I still, it's amazing. I had an amazing time. We started the band, built it up to that, and it's still going. It's incredible. So yeah, again, I'm not sort of downing it by any means, but it just felt like it's kind of gone. It feels like now I can start. I've been building the teaching, building the uni stuff, building my confidence back up, building, with the family. Our son Dylan, he's 22 now. He graduated last year. With everything with AS that we've had, while I was swanning around being David Essex, Sarah was trying to, communicate with, aged teachers who were just not interested in anything Senko related or autism related. That wasn't visible, back then it wasn't a visible thing. So people weren't reactive to it, kind of slow on the uptake. So guiding him and getting him through school, and then he graduated last year uni at MMU, and yeah, it feels like there's a little bit of a bow being tied.
Yeah,
there we go. Okay, and then, Sarah got her master's last year, and the sort of the journey that we've had since me leaving feels like it's there. So it's like, oh right, what are we doing now?
Yeah.
So there's lots of sort of irons in fires, and got a little podcast going on, and obviously
the world is once again your oyster.
I mean, yeah, it does feel like that.
Brilliant.
So yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
And I'm playing more, and I'm just playing. It's like just now. So Leah left, and I was just sat, and I can just have a play.
Sorry to ask this question, but did you find when you left Elbow that you were teaching, obviously facilitating? Sorry, obviously.
Yeah, I do the same.
But do you find that was you had to shift your purpose to that, and the enjoyment of drumming wasn't necessarily part of it? It was just that you had to have a purpose to drum.
I think so. Yeah. You're absolutely right. I think I got incredibly lazy with, and this happened, I think, a few years before I left, as the sort of clouds were gathering, or whatever analogy you want to put on it. And, personal life, band life, they were sort of, becoming sober, trying not to be too much of a dick anymore, which was hand in hand with the sobriety and stuff. And also, being around for Dylan, because his transition from the school we had him in, it was a Bury Grammar, so it was like a grammar school. They didn't have any Senkos in place, and his Asperger's, as we just say AS now, was really coming to the fore in that sort of transition from primary school to secondary school. They didn't have any facility, and they weren't willing to have any facility. So put him into a local comp, Phillips, brilliant. Framework in place, great. But still there was that kind of transition, social new skill. So part of that was me going, I need to be at home.
Right, yeah.
So that plus everything else, and just not, I wasn't really challenged in a way. I didn't feel I had a voice. And that was to do as much as it was with the changing kind of politics and stuff within the band, as to me and my inabilities to communicate, confidence, and all the rest of it. So stuff that I hadn't checked for myself, I hadn't done the work for me, which I've hopefully kind of done since I'd left or had the opportunity.
But easy to say in hindsight.
Absolutely.
At the time when you're in it.
So it sort of felt that, okay, I'm not really playing. It again goes into the confidence and sort of think, right, well, I'm in this great band and I'm just laying down a groove and it's relatively straightforward because we're playing for this track. I'm not, doing anything too elaborate. It's all foundational, which is my facilitating now, foundational playing. So, and empathic playing. But I think the facilitating was always there, and it sort of gathered purpose because I saw that Dylan, when I left, I built a drum shed at home, and that's what helped Dylan to process after a long day at school. So he'd just go in and he'd just...
Stars aligned, didn't they?
He'd just like slamming it, and he taught himself, and he's a ferocious player now, open-handed, very cool, very handsome, gets it from his mum. Sorry. So, yeah, it was all these kind of, as you say, stars aligning, and it felt that, I've not stopped playing since I left. So, that's my bad. I could have done the same, could have done the two quite easily, but there you go.
But then coming full circle round to what we were saying about you're enjoying playing for yourself now, which I think speaks to everything going on around you, it sounds like. Your whole life is in a place where you can allow yourself to just get lost in it and enjoy it.
And it helps me process.
Yeah. It's kind of why we get into music in the first place, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I think if that mirror is there, if you resonate with a piece of music, set of lyrics, a frequency, whatever, and it allows you to sit with yourself for a minute.
Yeah.
It's that's gold.
Amen to that. You mentioned the word frequency there, so let's get into the science.
Hopefully.
You're particularly interested in the science of the brain at a very basic description level, in particular neuroplasticity. Can you describe A, what neuroplasticity is, and B, how you're making connections between that and drumming?
Neuroplasticity, as I see it, and I know my wife would slightly cringe at this because I haven't done deeper research. I've only sort of cherry-picked little bits. But in my little brain, it's just the ability of the brain to just rewire itself, learning new skills. Repetition means your neurons and synapses are joining up like two bits of electrical wire. So they're wrapping around. The repetition means that eventually you'll create a protein called myelin, and that myelin sheath goes around the connection and makes it stronger. So for me, the neuroplasticity in terms of drumming is just your connection to your body. What I've found that a lot of people who start drumming, they actually find it much easier and much more fulfilling because it's the connection to the body, it's connection to the outer extremities, and also to music. When say with a few of my students, getting them to listen and play to music at the same time is a real skill, and it takes a bit. But in terms of neuroplasticity, it's that repetition and that active listening. So if you're sort of bringing all those assets together, you see it on people's faces. And I'm sure this is for any new skill, but any musical instrument. And when you get it, there's like a frisson in the room, and yeah, it's just like, oh my god, and that's your dopamine hit that you want to kind of, the legal high, which is the best high, which is,
I was watching a video yesterday. I was trying to look into this neuroplasticity, and there was a video on there. Now, I don't have it in front of me, so details are sparse in my brain, but there's a lot of the brain given over to movement.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about is it's going to be helping a lot of the brain, basically, because there's a high proportion of the brain that is concentrating on movement. So it all speaks to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Left hand, right hand, midbrain.
Although some of the things on your Instagram, that your little drum examples that you give, where you're doing, different rhythms with every limb, basically.
I am basic, so I'm watching stuff that I'm going, how, what, what, and I'm trying to dilute it for my tiny brain. But I think that's the connectivity, of music, and for me, especially the drums. It's limitless. And I think where I sort of hopefully differ in a positive way is that it's not reading, it's not theory based, it's not sort of, the measurable progression. And I've got this feedback from parents. The measurable progression is you checking in with yourself. So again, you've got that memory, the recall, for everybody, the first time that you hear a tune that you resonate with, and you can smell the weather. It's like everything's there. It's that photograph. But when somebody gets a beat here, or they play to that song, it's like it's incredible. I mean, I think Clem Burke from Blondie, he did a lot of research in terms of the effect of drumming on the brain, and also in terms of physical sort of exertion. I think Mark Richardson from Skunk Anansie did it as well, which is fascinating. Right. I would love to have like a little monitor here and put electrodes on, on the brain, and just go, look, this is your brain. This is what is happening, and it must be like a firework display up there.
Wow! Any universities out there listening?
Let's have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think in terms of your connection to yourself, that's where I really find the draw, because of my own, almost like, it's therapy, isn't it? It's therapeutic. And I remember when I used to use a lot of electronic kits, and I spoke to a guy called Jules from Roland, who's pretty high up now. And he said he got a phone call from an ex-serviceman who had PTSD, and he said he didn't think he would be here. He didn't want anything. He just wrote a letter to Roland, and he just said, "Look, I don't think I'd be here if I didn't have my electric kit."
Wow!
Just to go on. And just, it's visceral, it's tactile, it's confusing, it's frustrating when you're trying to learn. But again, that sort of proprioceptive awareness, spatial awareness, body awareness. That's when I've spoken to parents, they've said that, their kids have seemed more confident, more aware,
Amazing.
Probably more cheeky. But I don't know.
Kids will be kids, of course.
Kids will be kids, and they should be.
Yeah, that is absolutely fascinating, Rick. Shall we go back in time? I'm interested to find out how it all began for you.
Oh God, here we go.
Your earliest memories. Yes, diddle-a-doo. So yes, here we are, back in time.
Memories. Okay,
how
here we
did
go.
it all start? How young were you when you first became aware of music? Was it in your family home? Did you have influences around you that drew you in?
My dad was always into his Amdram. So there was that. And I had a mate called Matthew Roberts, and he had a kit in his house. He was learning to play drums. And I remember just sitting at his kit, and we were both listening to U2, Unforgettable Fire.
Ooh, right.
And I remember just sort of, as anyone does on a kit, and just, hitting stuff.
How old were you at this point?
Terrible with dates and names. But I would hazard a guess at sort of 13, something like that, 12, 13, okay. I think, around that age, maybe slightly younger. Again, the Gen X thing, I was just thinking then, we were allowed out from like 3. Yeah. Just go out and lose yourself in the forest.
Don't come back until the tea time.
So it could have been any age. But I just remember that was the first kind of paradigm shift. I wasn't really into music. I sat with my sister and we did the chart show on a Sunday night, getting ready to press play and record at the same time on it, but not really registering it. I remember, Depeche Mode, and I remember buying my first 7-inch single. It was like a rapper, really old rapper, but yeah, that was really that. I know that I didn't really want to play the drums. I was more interested in being a drum tech. And even when we started hanging out, myself, Pete and Mark, in comprehensive school, even that was weird. I mean, I was mates with Pete. I've known him since I was 6 months old. But Pot was Mark. His second name's Potter, so there's the Pot. Right. He was always a rocker. He had a mullet, and everybody else had a black blazer. He wore a blue blazer with his sleeves rolled up, and it was like, okay. I was always playing footy, so it wasn't really like a musical upbringing per se. But yeah, I don't know. My uncle, Uncle Barry, he was a marine biologist and a drummer, which that's my dad's brother, which was pretty cool. There was a photograph of him playing the kit, giving it the beans, and I think he had a top off. He was actually over in Oman, so he was super hot. He had his top off, giving it the beans, and he had a red bandana around there, big bushy beard, and I just thought, he's cool. So there was these sort of little dots that I'm kind of currently joining up.
And it's not so difficult to make the connection of
no, not really, no.
Drumming and science. You can see where you got your inspirations from.
Well, yeah. So yeah, I mean that was it really, and then it was. I think I didn't have a lesson, although I did have half an hour with a much better drummer from college called Mark Islam. And it was like this running joke that if I was ever late to a rehearsal or I'd fluffed something during a gig or whatever, they'd always go, "I was going to get Mark in. But he was, he'd probably still a miles better drummer than I am. So I think by the time I got to comprehensive school, there was this sort of gravitational pull. I was hanging around with Pete. Pete was mates with Pot. And then it was just this music room thing. Pete was like, "I'll play the bass then. There's nothing else to do." I was like, "Well, I might as well play the kit." There's probably a more concrete version somewhere. But that to me was just this. And then, us three would just gravitate towards a music room. There's a few girls in there that we fancied. It was like, we're going to be in a band. Usually is. We want to be cool. That was it.
But I talk about earlier I was talking about the stars aligning for you.
Yeah.
And I was remembering the first time I heard Elbow. I was taking a walk around the common where I lived, and I bought the first album. And I transferred it to mini disc. I don't know if you remember mini disc.
Do I? You're so posh.
Yeah. It was really popular at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was a bit like the old taping stuff, wasn't it? Yeah. You had to transfer it onto mini disc. And I heard Any Day Now. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, the components that have come together to make this. You've got the groove, the harmonies, the layers, the cool bass line. And just thinking, how often do a number of people get together to produce something that's so well balanced, where you can't really pick any holes in it? And that was a moment for me. So to hear that you were just, yeah, whatever, we're going to the music room to what should we pick? I'll just pick up some sticks. I'll pick up a bass. That's quite astonishing, really, that there wasn't the drive to create specifically.
Yeah, I think once Guy and Craig, we got to sixth form, and it wouldn't go away. That kind of like, well, I've done that, can't be asked anymore. I want to go and play football, or I want to do this, or we enjoyed each other's company. We were hanging around, and then it started to become something. We were doing covers, and then we started writing our own stuff.
What kind of covers were you doing?
Shit ones. No. We did the Queen covers when it was myself, Mark and Pete. We did Queen, Elton John, like AC/DC, the good stuff.
Yeah.
Mostly through Mark, really. He brought a lot of musical influences in with him. And then we did them at sort of assemblies and stuff. And then when we got to sixth form, the sort of, as you say, serendipitous stories, Guy and Mark were part of two separate gangs. Not gangs, but, groups of people. I mean, fluffy musicians. There was nothing hard about it at all. Smoking either side of the common room. And then Mark was driving home one night. It was absolutely hacking down. Guy was walking home, utterly drenched. And Mark just said, I don't know why, I just pulled over and said, do you want a lift? Losing My Religion was on. This is part of the part of the book somewhere. And Guy started harmonising, and then Mark said, oh, do you want to join my band? So there's lots of these little things that went on. And I think from there, and Guy's input in terms of, we tried to write singles, we tried to write, try to get a development deal. We tried all sorts. Yeah, backdrops, all sorts. Didn't work. And then I think the one thing that we gelled on, and this is where we were talking about community and talking about, the links that we have, and we only have those once we are able to and confident in talking to each other. That we all love talk. We all loved, probably a family show, but you can always edit this out, but copious amounts of weed were involved. But Guy brought in talk, and I think when you mentioned the Any Day Now, that was a direct influence from talk.
Right.
It was a really cool sort of melting pot of ideas and music. I think pretty much spearheaded by, Guy was the catalyst, really. He was much more informed about a lot more of a spread of influences and genres and textures and tones and stuff like that. And then we just thought, we can't write a single. We just can't. We're shit at it. And it's not happening. So, yeah, we just wrote a track called September Sometime. A bit of a rip, really, from any talk track, probably Spirit of Eden and Laughing Stock eras. But it was just this kind of experiment in what do we want to say, what individually as well as collectively. And I loved the Lee Harris, just sitting, there's the groove.
Yeah.
I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to listen to everybody else, which has a direct link to what I do now in terms of active listening and being objective about your playing while you're playing. I need to name check Benny Greb as well, who's an incredible educator and phenomenal drummer. And, he gets people to talk or sing while they're playing. So we have that kind of split of tempo, but also movement in and around that space created the space created by that foundation. There you go, mixing my words up. So if we can understand that movement in and around, I think it makes you a better player.
Yeah.
So again, not being drawn or distracted and having the discipline. Yeah, eventually, you can pop your head out and do a little fill and a little mooch, but coming back to that,
go and have a little mooch.
But again, it's that boom, 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 da, da. And then it's pretty much that groove all the way through.
Yeah, we had when I was in a band in my early 20s, we had a saying which was play the song, not the instrument.
There it is.
Was, yeah. Because I mean, we've all seen gigs where there's been someone showing off, frankly. Oh, there's a bass solo in the middle of a chorus, or whatever. So yeah, that was informed from that. But
I think that's born of confidence, though, isn't it? If it's not about the collective, I sound like some kind of Star Trek character, but if it's not about the collective in a responsible and empathic way,
yes,
that's going to come across, and people they're gonna smell it.
Yeah,
straight away.
Absolutely. And on the flip side, people really appreciate it when it happens, when that collaboration happens. You can just tell, like any day now. I could feel it.
And as well, it's again, you resonated with what we were trying to say. Any day now, how's about getting out of this place? Yeah. So of the time, it's like, yeah. I need to get out there. I need to do something about how I'm going to get out there. And again, it is kind of linked with what I talk about in seminars at uni. Because now it's a different time. Music industry is, there's no money. Well, there is money. There's a ton of money, but it's not directed where it needs to go. So, young musicians today, it's like you've got to try and engineer trust. So you trusted us by listening to that track. So therefore, you're going to buy merch. You're going to buy another record. You're going to come to a gig, which are all separate income streams that record companies shouldn't go for.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then the trust from somebody who was going to go, right, I'm going to give you £10. I want you to make me think different by the end of listening to the track, feel different by buying that T-shirt or that, that plate or whatever merch you're going to do. And also from that gig. Yeah, hey, mate, honestly, we had loads of ideas that we didn't do. Set of 5 plates, and we had a bet on whose would sell the most.
Get your elbows off the table? No.
Hello.
I don't know.
I think just from a standpoint of trust in each other, to get the tune out and do it justice, and also trust from your point of view, because you want to invest in something that is going to make you feel.
Yeah. You're talking about the inability to write a single earlier.
Yep.
That did come though, didn't it? Suddenly, I don't know whether it was the onslaught of bigger and bigger venues and the need for some, stadium bangers.
There you go.
But looking back, do you have your personal favourites in the back catalogue?
Bitten by the Tailfly. That's always a cracker to play for me. Oh God. I like Red. Red's a good one to play.
Right. Yeah.
From a time signature standpoint. Props to the producer Ben Hillier for that, because it was just going to be another 12/8 sort of one of those.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I really want to mess with the time sig, the temp, and we just worked out this I think it's really cool drum loop. Anyway, so Red. I mean, God, there are a few. I like the stops. It was funny. My son was in a band, and then he left that band because they were very good. And we went to Liverpool to bust out his kit that was in the rehearsal room over there, and came back to where I was at in Stockport, a place called Pear Mill in Stockport, and he the Little Bugger, oh, that's a good tune as well.
It's a good band name. Yeah.
It's a good band name, isn't it? So yeah, he put on a couple of elbow tunes, and he put the stops on, and I burst into tears, like sobbed. But it wasn't for any sort of nostalgia or I'm missing it, or you know what I mean. It wasn't that. It was I don't know. I don't know whether you've ever done that and gone, oh.
You're kind of yanked into a certain place and time, aren't you?
Yeah. Taken
by surprise.
Which is what music should do.
Yeah, yeah. But then being so involved in that particular music, that's going to multiply the effect.
I think Lippy Kids as well, that was a good one.
Oh, wonderful.
A lot of sort of good memories about that.
It's a tough choice, really, isn't it? Because there are so many good tunes.
Thankfully, there's a couple, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about yours? Have you got a fave?
Modestly,
Newborn's a good one.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is it. I go, oh, right, yeah, that one. And then you mention another one. Go, yes, that's absolutely amazing. And then another one. Yeah, I'd say probably on every album there's a good couple where I think, but that's amazing.
I love it. I love it when you hear something and you go, where the does that come from? How they got that? Where? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, look, I ask every guest on the Music Room to provide an item and a piece of advice for people in the Music Room to find. So, do you have anything prepared for this?
Can it be a pair of something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Pair of drumsticks. I was doing a podcast episode with my co-host and good friend, Brian Hargreaves. Amazing drummer, amazing educator. And we were talking about trying to instill something like that want into students or the drummers. It's just a pair of sticks. And because they're an extension of you, just the piece of advice would be just don't think about doing anything with them. Just have them in your hands. See what happens.
Wow. Simple, profound. I like it. This is the second pair of sticks that is being left in the Music Room. Composer Segun Akinola.
Wow.
He started as a drummer, and he was the Jodie Whittaker era Doctor Who composer.
Oh, wow.
He was specifically about the oak sticks. He thought they were a bit heavier, so a bit more dense.
That's fascinating.
So it impacts how
good
you play.
Company.
Yeah, there you go. In good
company. I used to, when I was on Promark, I had the, I can't remember. It was a pair of oak sticks. They were great. They were really nice. I would say, what have I got at the minute? Some Carter Beaufords. Carter from Dave Matthews. But I have the grip ones.
Ah, lovely.
Yeah. See, I like these because they're 5Bs, quite chunky, but the Vic Firth normal 5Bs, they taper quite shallowly to the tip, and they've got a smaller tip. These are the Promark kind of link up, bigger tip and a bigger shoulder. So you've got more sort of forward motion. Anyway.
And yellow grips. So, I mean,
yellow.
Yeah, goes in with the Music Room branding there. So it's a good choice of colour.
Brilliant. There we go.
Rick Jupp, it's been an absolute joy chatting with you. I hope we can do this again.
Same.
And thank you for joining me in the Music Room.
Thank you so much for having me, Gareth. It's been an absolute pleasure, mate.
Thanks for listening to the Music Room podcast today. If you'd like to know more about the show or the community that surrounds it, head to musicroom.community. The link is in the show notes.